Oh, what's good, y'all? Welcome back to Dream House TV. I am your host, Dream, and you guys, I'm in another one. We have another one. Okay, so yes, I'm in the Zoom meeting. With someone that's gonna fill us in on exactly what it is that she do. I did a couple of research. Y'all know I like to do my research. So yes, we're going to get into it. But what I'm going to do now is allow her to go ahead and take over and introduce herself, and go ahead and let the people know who you are.
Yes, so thank you for having me. I am Lisa Nolan. Most people call me Lily. I am the founder of Healing She Got Faith, which this is an organization created for adults who are dealing with grief and or on their self-love journey. We have our own talk show, which you can find on any of the podcast platforms and YouTube. And we do grief groups, which we do virtual and in person. We just opened our first building in St. Louis, Missouri. And we have a blog as well as I'm a published author as well.
Wow, right. So look, you guys, she has a lot going on. So, we're gonna try to keep up. Because yes, like when I was looking, I was like, okay, yeah, she has a lot of stuff going on. So where are you originally from? Let's go ahead and put them on the map.
Yes. Okay. So originally I'm from Queens, New York, but I was raised in St. Louis, Missouri. So I'm definitely very St. Louis. I did go back after my mom passed away. I went to New York to just find out like where my roots were from, where my parents are from. But I'm St. Louis all day. I couldn't even fake it if I tried to be New York.
Right. Like you gotta know, like, hey, I can try it, but they can point out the fakers, like, nah, no.
They was like, "You is so country. Who is you?"
Right off top. Yeah, they know the difference. They will know the difference. Yeah. So I mean, let's talk about the self love advocate. Let's hear about your journey, starting that off like from the beginning.
Yes, so the self-love advocate, I ain't gonna lie to y'all, it's self-proclaimed, but that actually started in 2017. I was just like in a really bad place and I had just got tired of being like tired. And so I had started doing just research on things that like make people feel better. And so like I started going to like dance classes, I started going to yoga classes and started just doing stuff that like made me feel good and I wasn't necessarily holding in all this tension in my body. And so from there, I just really started to like focus on who and what I was and who I was becoming because I wasn't happy with my job. I wasn't happy. I was in a relationship at that time. I wasn't happy in that. I wasn't happy at home. Like I just was not happy. And so I was just really tired. Like I really like people talk about breaking generational curses, but like I really wanted to see a new form. Like I really wanted to see something different than what I had been seeing. And so it started off like that. Like I was literally just putting myself out in the world to figure out like what makes me feel good, what calms the mind, body, and soul, what feels better. I actually had went on like a raw food diet as well during that time. And just doing things I was never taught to do, never even knew about, like y'all gonna laugh at me, but like even learning like new cooking tools, like a apple cutter. I had never seen an apple cutter, and I was like, "What is this control? Like, what is this? Like, we just use knives in my house. You got apple cutters? You got apple? Like, I just remember the first time I seen it, I was like, "What is this circle with knives? What does this do?" So it was just this journey of like it's a lot in the world and I just didn't want to keep going with how I had felt. And so ever since then I've just been going on this self-love journey of what it is that I like, and every season is something new. And it's never the same thing. So that's where the self-love advocate came from.
Look, right. And that was going to be my next question. Like, at what time in life did you realize self love was the best love?
Ooh, I would say it was probably right before my mom's passing, and then after my mom's passing, it was like just confirmed. But I ended up leaving a very toxic relationship, and I ended up I was in grad school at the time, and I had got into it with all my supervisors at the time, and I just was like at a point where I was like, I think what bothers people in this moment in time is that I'm not gonna kill myself over these organizations. And I'm gonna set that boundary of saying, like, it's crazy how you want me to sacrifice my life, but the only, like, after I pay rent and my car note, I ain't got nothing else to help me live. But you want me to go all out for this organization, and I can't do it. Like, I have nothing to give. And so, like, literally having like supervisors tell me, like, oh, you young folks think you know everything. Back in my day, we had to do this. And I was like, well, we're not in your day and we have other options now. So you're upset because I know what I want and what I want to do. And that bothers you because you never got the opportunity to do that. And I'm not being rude to you about it, but I'm letting you know, like, my whole family has lacked boundaries, but with me, that's gonna stop.
Right. Because I mean, look, you have to know, like, for sure, like, everybody doesn't have your vision. You know, everybody doesn't have that goal or that plan to do what you are doing. So when it's given to you, no one else is going to understand it. You know, because it's just meant for you. So I mean, they're gonna have those naysayers, those that's gonna doubt. But when it blows up, everybody want to automatically pop up. You know, like, hey, I'm your long distance cousin. You know, from across the way. Like, right. Like, I didn't even know I had family way across there, you know, but it
didn't even know it.
Look, right. Well, you know, hey, long distance cousin, you know, but you know, not to be mean, but you can stay long distance, you know, like that kind of thing. So yeah, because the fact that you knew about me and you must have been watching all this time what I had going on.
Absolutely. It's so funny that you said that because I was just talking to another social worker, and I had listened to her podcast, just ended up like DMing her, like just letting her know, like, yo, this podcast is deep. But I said something to her and she repeated back to me. What I said was, I'm in a position in my life right now where, like, I have family, like those long distance family members who, now that both of my parents are deceased, they have a lot to say about me. But how I feel about it is, y'all had my whole life to be here and you chose not to. So now that my parents are not here, you're holding me accountable for like stuff that my parents did not tell me. And that ain't my problem. And the social worker I was talking to, she repeated it back to me. She was like, oh my gosh, like, that's it. Like, you had my whole life to be my aunt, my uncle, my cousin. Right. And you chose not to be here. Like, it's a difference if we the same age. Like, you know, at that point you can maybe hold accountability. But like my dad's mom, like, I don't have a relationship with her. She's alive, she's in her 90s. Was there ever an effort to be here? On my end, no. You know, so, but you know, everybody's story is different and everybody has their own version of things, but that's where I'm at with it. Like, you have my whole life to be here. So
yeah, exactly. Like, it was a choice, you know, like, people, you know, like, yeah, you can choose to be here or not. Like, you could choose to go to the store and pick up groceries, or you could choose to starve. Like, it's a choice. Everything is a choice. You either go left or right. So yeah, I mean, yeah, right. And then when they reappear, it's like, okay, so I must be doing something right, you know, because it just like, yeah, because I mean, who to say, you know what I'm saying, like, having that relationship with her, you know what I'm saying, it couldn't build you up even more, or, you know what I'm saying, like, teach you something new, but at the same time, you also had to go your own way. And I think it was probably meant to go that way because some people can also have different influences on your life as well, too.
Yeah. And I've always said, like, my path was definitely like a destined path, because like, even when I look at my siblings and I look at my parents, like, my path has just always been the different pathway. Like, it's just always looked so different than everybody else's. And so when I do family research, when I look into my family, like, I realize like some of this stuff was more than likely for the better, versus like me feeling like, well, y'all ain't like me. Like, y'all wasn't here. But it's more so like, it's what I probably needed to get where I am today.
Yeah. Look, God put the toughest ones that he know can handle it through it. Lord, we get tired sometimes, okay? We get tired, okay? But I mean, we understand it is to build us up, but you know, just lighten up just a little bit.
Just a little bit. You all gotta add me to the strongest soldiers in 2023. We good.
Right. Look, I had my share this year, okay? Look, make next year wonderful and great for me, you know? But I mean, when you look at it like that, though, it's probably built you up for next year. Ain't no telling what next year, what is gonna bring. you know, like what you have looking forward to, some things coming that you probably don't even see coming, you know. So it just like, and when it comes, just throw it in the bag, you know, like, hey, count it all joy, count it all joy. Right. Yeah. So I mean, let's talk about it. I also, you also said something about your talk show.
Yes. So I was living in Brooklyn from like 2019 to 2021. So that was during the like head of the pandemic. And it wasn't much to do in New York because we was on lockdown. I pretty much lived in a room. But I had always had this passion of like being on the radio, being on a podcast. Like I love to talk. I love my voice. Like so I've always envisioned it. And so when I was living in New York, I just randomly started doing these YouTube videos. Now, y'all, they are terrible. Like to this day, I do not like my YouTube channel, but I do it every day. I show up, not every day, but every week I show up. One day I'm gonna have somebody who can edit it, make it pretty and all that. But I show up because for me, that's part of my project. That's part of my story. That's part of who I am. And despite what it is, I'm going to show up. But I was starting my organization, which actually started off as a blog. So my original thought was I'm gonna do a weekly blog and then I'm gonna occasionally do like a YouTube video, excuse me. And so the YouTubes were only supposed to be like random. Well, they became weekly as well. So I found myself doing weekly vlogs and weekly YouTubes. Well, I had got an offer from a radio platform in Detroit who I think they found me on Facebook and was like, hey, we have this radio platform. We love your mission. Have you ever thought about having a show? And I was like, well, I actually have one. You know, it don't got like 100,000 views, but it's up there. Like it's in the YouTube world.
Right.
And so basically what I was already doing, I took that and took it to the radio platform. And I did that for maybe about like 6 or 7 months. And then now I transitioned to like, I'm strictly just on a podcast. So like pretty much my own platform in YouTube. So what the talk show was really about, like, so I focus on grief, and especially after my mom had passed away, like I really got into like this whole grief talk because I didn't really feel like adults had an outlet for grief. And so I started the talk show to just honestly like be real with people about like where I'm at in my grief walk and like where most people don't have the opportunity to say like, as an adult, I miss my mom. As an adult, I miss my dad. Like as an adult, this is what I'm missing. And so like in that, I also started to learn like there's not a lot of research on grief. There's not a lot of like grief resources. And so I was like, well, I'm going to create it because it's needed. And so it really turned into like on this weekly basis, I'm discussing grief and what grief is, the power of grief, how to cope with grief. What does grief look like in the workplace? What does grief look like in your relationship? Is grief only death? And so through that, we created a segment called Grief Beyond Death, which discusses grief that doesn't have to do with death. Like maybe it's a breakup, a house fire, a move, some type of transition. Maybe you have a terminal illness, and so you're grieving your old body. Like there's so much that we grieve and we never even have like the consciousness to realize that we're experiencing grief. Like we may not even be depressed or anxious, which is what a lot of us will get diagnosed with. Whole time we just grieving and we just don't know like what that is, what that feels like, how to handle it and things of that nature. And so that's how my talk show came about. And that's pretty much what we talk about in the talk show.
Right. So I mean, like, are there different levels of grief, like different steps to where you're just like you're at your top, you know, like just can't take it no more kind of thing? Are there different levels to that?
So I'm the type of grief person. I don't believe in like the stages or the steps of grief. I don't believe that grief is linear. I believe that we have different seasons in grief. So a lot of people will look at like the stages of grief, but the person who created the stages of grief, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, she actually said that she created the stages of grief for the person who was on the deathbed. But what society did is they took the stages of grief and put it as grief as a whole, when really there was never any stages or steps for the bereaver. So like for the people who feel it, there isn't a guideline. However, what I believe is true is once we know grief and once we're able to address it and give ourselves permission to grieve is when we can fully start to move forward, but also to be comfortable in like our grief season. So like we're technically in like the societal grief season, which is the holiday season. That's typically where we see an increase of people grieving, but each person has their own personal grief season as well. So typically it's the time around a major loss is usually a grief season. And so in those moments, if we understand grief, we can say, well, I'm really grieving today. So like, for example, Thanksgiving just passed. So like maybe you weren't feeling it on Thanksgiving because you lost somebody. So in that moment, you could say, oh, I'm feeling this way because normally grandma would be cooking this and grandma's not here right now. So this is why I feel uncomfortable in this moment. Like maybe your auntie is cooking Thanksgiving dinner, but you're not supposed to, like grandma's supposed to be doing this. So in that moment, you can realize like I'm uncomfortable in this moment because I'm grieving my grandmother.
For the healing technique, what do you advise, for some to do?
I will always tell people the first step is to address it and give yourself permission to grieve. So instead of trying to be hard and strong, like really admitting to yourself, like I am hurt because I lost X, Y, and Z. And so when you give yourself that grace, you're able to say, like, hey, self, I give you permission to grieve. So if we're in this moment right now, I'm going to allow my body to feel how it feels. I'll allow the tears to cry. I'll allow the body to ache if I need to sleep, or just anything, like, because your body will tell you what it needs in that moment. And so we have to learn to give our body permission. And through permission, our body has the freedom to do what it needs to do to heal. And so a lot of the times, like people don't even realize, like, you might be dehydrated because you ain't allowed yourself to grieve. And that might sound silly, but you so busy trying to be strong and not think about the pain and the loss, but whole time, like, all of a sudden your throat itchy, like you need some water, like your body is like, yo, like we're in pain right now, chill, like sit down, like be here, be in this moment. Or you might get triggered, like maybe you smell something from somebody you lost, or maybe you see a picture that used to be in your old house and your heart just dropped, and that's your body being like, hey, like sit here for a minute, like it's okay, like we're safe, like it's okay to feel this, like this is a reminder of what you used to have and we don't have it right now, so let's sit here even if it's for 60 seconds. So I always say address it and then give yourself permission to feel it.
Yeah. And to back it up to the one that we just finished talking about with the grieving, it's crazy because now that you said it about the holidays, at the end of the year, close to like the beginning of New Year's, that's when we do tend to lose, more people. And I was wondering why, but now that you actually broke it down and, explained, I'm like, okay, well, yeah, that does make a lot of sense. Like a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
So that's what was going through my head. I just couldn't get it at the moment. I'm like, right. So, I mean, as for your grand opening for the community, let's talk about it.
Yes, man, that is a testimony in itself. I was living in New York and I came across this property. Me and my siblings, we put in on it and we were able to purchase it. So we fully own it. We're not paying a mortgage. The deed is in like our family name. And we originally got it. Okay, let me back up. We actually were looking at a separate building where it was like 3 times bigger, and we were actually going to develop like a center for people who were aging out of foster care. And like we had this big old plan, but we kept getting denied. The money was tight. And so we ended up coming across this building. And with this building, it was way smaller, but it could still do like what we needed it to do. And so we started working on it. And when I say every no and stop that could cross us, it came with it. So I learned a lot about buying property. I learned a lot about taxes. I learned a lot about you have to be careful in what municipality you purchase property in, because you think like on a citywide level, you know, everything will be the same. But like when you start breaking it down to like the areas that you're in, which I know in different states they're called different things. So in St. Louis, we call them municipalities. And each municipality has their own rules and regulations. And so, like, we got flagged because we had a sign that said open 24 hours. And they were like, no, you cannot have that. I'm like, I own this building. What you mean I can't open it for 24 hours? Like, I own this. If anything happens, like, I got to buy the insurance. So, like, it falls on me. So, what you mean I can't have it 24 hours? Like just little stuff like that. Like, just rules and regulations that, like, so it don't matter that I own this. I still got to follow your rules. So I just learned a lot about that. But and then on top of that, like just going through like it was a lot of money. We went through a lot of contractors, and then also too like trying to bring the vision alive. And so even with that, like that was hard. But when it was all said and done, I was able to create what I call the healing office, which is where we hold our grief groups. There's a memorial wall, there's a library, we have TVs, we have a coffee and snack bar. And that's more so like coffee cafe type of feeling. So like people will usually come to do the grief groups, kind of chill out. A lot of people use the memorial wall, which you can bring a picture or something that represents your loved one, put it on there. It's almost like an altar. Like a lot of people call it, they'll be like the altar in your building. I'll be like, sure, that's fine.
Look, right.
Yeah, that's cool. But then like where I'm at right now, this is the sunshine room, which this is the co-working space. And so I did it to where I have like a professional area and like more of a lax area, because I do get a lot of people who are working remote and they might utilize my healing services, but also too like they might need to work. And so the whole purpose was to like get people to start healing and being comfortable, but also too like I was very peculiar on the colors I use. So like you can see in this room, it's yellow and orange because I want to motivate people. Like this is a space to get your creativity out, whatever, you know, like I've had people doing like science projects in here, like just to be, you know, creative, be productive and stuff like that. Because a lot of times we're held back from doing what we love to do, or maybe it's not even what we love to do, but just doing our work, because there is grief and there is something holding us back. And so I like to combine the two and say like, well, some of your blockages is grief. So let's work through that. And then you're motivated to kind of move forward. It don't work that easy or that fast, but the idea, you know, the idea is there. And it takes you to be comfortable with giving yourself permission to heal and to understand grief. But that's where it came, you know, that's where it came from. We get local community people who come and rent out the spaces. They do their own groups, and we get people to just come and do their meetings. We get people who just work remote, but also we get people who just come and sit on the couch and sit with their loved ones and journal or do a worksheet or just drink a cup of coffee, whatever, you know, whatever makes them feel better.
Right. So, I mean, as for your book as well, like, what are some of the things that they can look forward to if they was to, you know, purchase your book or, you know, that kind of thing? Like, what are, and is it personal testimonies in there as well?
Yeah, so my first book is called Everyone Has a Story, and it's pretty much my life. So I would call it a memoir, and it's pretty much like me describing my life and how through my life I discovered that everyone has a story. I never met a person who did not have a story, and I just thought that was so wild, because you hear people be like, oh, you grew up rich, you'll never hear what you'll never know what I'm going through. And honestly, what made me really think about that was when I was in college and I had issues with FAFSA, the financial aid system in college. And I remember like having this conversation with one of the FAFSA representatives, and they were just like, well, you know, like if people making six figures, they can obviously afford to send their kids to college. And I was like, but why does that mean that? Like, trust me, I've never seen six figures, so I'm not arguing like on my behalf. But why do we put that pressure on people? Because why does that make sense? Was my question. And so I kind of always kept that in mind because I just always found that interesting. But then as I went through that self-love journey and just realizing that like, wow, like the richest person that I know, which at the time was probably like a multimillionaire, was like struggling with like her son was on drugs. And so she was coming to work as the CEO, but like at a lunch one day, at a luncheon, she was like in the back of the bathroom breaking down crying. And who walked in on her? Me. And I'm like, yo, you okay? Like, you
Right.
good? And she was like, yeah. So she kind of told me a little bit about what was going on. Like, her son was diagnosed with autism. He's about 19 years old. And he's just really struggling in school, and now he's on this drug habit, so we put him in rehab, and now he thinks we hate him. It was like a spiral, and I was like, yo, like, you just never know anybody's story. You just never know what's going on. And so through the different things that I have been through and all the different people that I've met, I just realized that like each and every person has their own individual story. And whether we talk about it or not, it doesn't stop you from having a story. It doesn't, how I see it is like you have a certain light that the earth needs. And without you, the earth wouldn't rotate with it. Like that's why we are all here. We're all here with a purpose or story, but it's up to you to recognize your story.
Yeah, true. Like actually, you know, going within and figure out who you are. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like who you are meant to be, what it is that you are called to do. And once you start tapping into that, everything else is gonna fall in line. You just have to stay consistent with it and just keep going. It's gonna be like you always hear me talking about the bumps in the road on like all my shows. Bumps in the road is gonna have those hiccups. But what are you gonna do? Are you gonna let it just keep you there, or are you gonna get up and you know continue to go? So it all depends on like how you actually take it. But when you sit back now and actually think about, you know, your talk show, your you know, the community center that you have going on, not only that, but also, you know, finding yourself, self-love, you know, going through all of that, like how do you feel right now at this moment when you reflect back on all that you've done?
I just be smiling because I be like, yo, you really made it. I be proud because little Lisa never thought she would make it. Like little Lisa really thought she was gonna be a grocery store clerk. Like that was the biggest hope that she had. And to be here and have these degrees that we ain't know if we was gonna make it, like we ain't know that was a struggle. To go through both of my parents' death, to go through my brother almost, you know, not having his life, to go through some of the things my sister went through, to go through like home foreclosure, to couch hopping, to like just doing stuff that I had to do on my own because like my mom just didn't have the experience of doing it. To even like when I graduated, like I went to college, but my mom and brother moved across the country. So like for some years, I was like just by myself, and we were too poor to see each other, to make efforts to see each other. I really lived in like a hopeless world. And I think about like how I used to be, and I was just so angry. And I was so negative. Like I never had hope that things would actually turn around. And it really started with me just checking myself and checking my heart posture and like being like, yo, we got to do something to change. Cause I was just tired of being that. And it was crazy because a lot of people, even back then, just loved who I was as a person. So they were seeing this love in life that even I couldn't even see it for myself. I couldn't see it in the mirror. Like, even to this day, I'd be like, what did y'all see when I was like 19 and 20 years old? Because I know who I was. Like, she was rough. She was rough. And you still love her? Like, listen, she was questionable.
Look, right. Look, all of us, I'm pretty sure at that moment was like, look, I didn't expect, you know, for it to be how it's going now, you know. But I mean, like I said, you know, hard heads, you know, with sometimes they teach us things in life to where, you know, I'm not gonna do that again. You know what I'm saying? Stuff, and then also it's like, okay, I learned from it, but I know that if it does come again and come a little stronger, I know how I handled it, you know, from the time before. So if your younger self came to you for some advice right now, what would you tell her?
Baby, calm down. Just calm down. Just relax, honey. It is okay. Honestly, I just feel like my younger self just needed a hug and just needed to know that, like, somebody loved her authentically because she was a hothead. She was so quick, like, and she had to be right. So like if Lil Lisa was to come, like I would just give her a hug and just be like, baby, it's okay, just calm down, just sit. Like, like just hit, just let me love you. Like, I think that would be it because I feel like we could have saved so much heartbreak and drama if we just wasn't so quick to react.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So even if your future self came to you where you are right now, what would you hope to hear?
Oh, that's a good question. I've never thought about that. I'll be completely honest. If my future self came to me, I foresee my future self being like, I told you so. Like I told you, like you knew we was gonna make it and we're here. Like you knew like everything that you said you was gonna do, you manifested it, you worked for it, you prayed for it, and we made it and we here.
Right, right. I mean, yeah, I like that one in there every once in a while. Like, you know, like what would I really want to hear? You know what I'm saying? My future self tell me at this present, at this moment, you know, like, hey, yeah, you at this hiccup moment, but you know, right after this, you got something big coming for you, you know? So it's just like some of those things that'll be good to, you know, to hear. Like, hey, you know, you came further than what you really expect to come, you know, like that type of stuff. Just keep going, you know, and then you actually seeing yourself in the future. And it's like you looking like I'm looking pretty good, you know?
Okay.
Like,
listen, you look good, girl. Like, okay. We came a long way.
right. So I mean, you know, it's just like, you know, just some of those things to where it's just like, you know, you have to realize that you have to be proud of yourself. You know, like we take those moments to where, you know, we know that we accomplished, but we don't look at it as like a big accomplishment. You know, it's just like one of those things because you gotta understand once you get past that first step, you still have growing to do. That you know what I'm saying, that comes along with it. So be willing to put in that work and action. You know, actions it speaks louder than words. So once they actually see you out there, you're doing it and you putting your time and your effort into it, just watch it grow. Expect it to grow. Just don't sit there and expect it to, you know, just stay where it's at. No, expect it to go bigger and bigger. Like you're going to come along with people who is meant to network with you. So let's get on that topic. How has networking really, you know, like how has it been? What word am I looking for? How has networking been in your life, basically?
Networking has been amazing. I feel like I have gotten in some more doors and connections through networking. And I feel like honestly, even when I was like, when I think back to like even middle school and high school, like I've had some pretty dope experiences because I've met people like or been recommended or just just been presented opportunities for being at the right, for being in the right place at the right time. And I will always say, like, never try to do anything by yourself. Like, you need a village, and it's hard. I'm not saying that like it's gonna come easy, but put yourself around people who are actually doing something, who will actually help build you and you help build them. And I think that's all, like that's what networking is all about. Like, start going on Eventbrite, start going on Instagram and seeing like what's going on in your city and just start showing up. Like this morning, I just went to a business breakfast with some of the most top CEOs in St. Louis. And I ain't gonna lie, like they came in there suited and booted. I came in a crop top and some boots. Okay. Like, and I was in the same room with them. I've been to these type of meetings. I didn't expect it to be this fancy. So I kind of dressed according to like how the meetings usually go. But like I'm talking about some of the top people, and when they see my name tag, they like, "Oh, you a business owner too?" And like people coming up to me like, "Oh, you do social work, you do grief." So like they not even tripping off of what I'm wearing, but they coming up to me and we like having actual dialogue, exchanging numbers and things of that nature. So like, see what's going on in your city and pop out. Like I know in St. Louis, we have a lot of free stuff. Like when I leave this interview, we actually have a panel because we're the city is trying to hire a new police chief. And if, over the years, St. Louis has been on the map because of our police issue. these, even though those are more political, those are perfect events to go to so you can meet the people in your community and also to the people that be running your community. Because the thing about it is we have a say so. And St. Louis is one of those cities that we have proved time and time again that when the community shows up, the politicians have no choice but to listen to us. And some of the best connections I've ever had was participating in the protest, was going to events like this. There are people who did not know me, but they saw that I was by myself. And when I was marching, they made sure that I was good. And so even with stuff like that, like some of the people that I used to like see at the protest, like we just had like a community brunch not too long ago. So I just say all that to say it's really important to like put yourself out there and networking. I feel like networking is one of the best tools that you can have. Just put yourself out there, see what's going on in your city, go to some free events, go to the public library, see what the schools in your community are doing. Like there's always an opportunity for you to put yourself in places. I know people who have less credentials than me who are doing top speaking engagements all because we were all in the same room at the same time. And that's all it takes is just to meet the right people and put yourself out there. Like, don't be scared. Don't be scared of somebody in a suit. Cause I was that person. Like, I'd be like, they stuck up. They ain't gonna like me. Whole time they learning from me. Like, they appreciate my outlook on life. So I would say 1,000% networking has helped me and molded me to be the person, entrepreneur, social worker, woman I am today.
Look, yeah, and I tell anybody, and always, like if they put you in that, if you're in that position to where you can actually enter the room to where you know it's going to be other business-minded people, the same people that's going for the same thing, not even, you know, like that is good to be around because they say what you hang around, you also become part of.
Yeah.
So think about it. You're going out here, you're going to these meetings, these brunches, you know, you're going out there and actually interact with the community. Like she said, you never know who you run into. I done ran into some people that's now is, you know, part of my life and they see what I'm doing. So now it's just like, you know, we're working together. Hey, if I got this event, I'm gonna let you know. Hey, if you go out and got this event, let me know, you know, and we just go from there. And like now it's just, you know, it's called, you know, it's called building and connecting with those that have the same, if it's not the same, it's the same frame of mind, moving, elevating, going to the next step, you know, that kind of thing. So, I mean, any advice that you have for our viewers that may be going through, that may be grieving right now, maybe trying to find themselves, trying to figure out how to love themselves. Any advice that you have for them?
Yeah, so my life quote is love you the way you love the world. And all that simply means is all that energy that you're putting into everyone and everything around you, put that into yourself. Take time for you. And I know, like, especially to our busy folks, our parents, our people that work multiple jobs, even if it's 5 minutes a day, like start with that and just put that energy into you. Like, if you die tomorrow, what those people gonna do? So take care of yourself today so that you can cherish the moments. Don't miss out on years of life because you were so busy trying to please this world. Like, you deserve just as much love as you give to everybody else.
Yeah, and that's some great advice. Great advice. Great advice. So even if they wanted to see, you know, just ask you simple questions or wanted to talk to you, there's a website, a phone number that you have personally, you know, like that kind of thing. Go ahead and
yes. So if you guys would like to reach out, you can text my number 314-619-0283. I have that phone number. That is the business cell phone number. So I will answer you back as soon as I can. You can check out my website, which is healingsheGotFaith.com. All my services and programs, blogs, talk shows, all there. You can follow me on Instagram, Healing She Got Faith, and I'm also on TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook. But definitely, if you want to reach out, Instagram, the number, or my website is definitely the 3 best places to go.
Right. So you guys already know I'm gonna have everything in the description box. I'm also gonna have a number go across the screen, so that way you know it'll be easy for you guys as well. Just in case y'all want to pick up and call her right now. Pick up and call her right now. Like, right then and there, she will try to get back to you as soon as possible. You know, you guys, we are human. Sometimes we be busy, you know, not on the norm. I have to tell people that often. If please text text me first before you call.
Yes.
So please, so yes, like that's for anybody that's watching. In order to get in touch with me, text me first before you call.
Please and thank you.
Please thank you. Please and thank you. Right, right. So I really appreciate you taking the time, to sit down and talk with me. It was pretty dope. Even, just like, you talked about your journey and where you are now. So where do you hope to see yourself in the future?
I would love to own quite a few like full-fledged community centers. So I have my first building, which I believe was the foundation of everything. I'm hoping this will be, headquarters. And then in the future, I would like to have like a full-fledged community center in downtown St. Louis. I would like to have one in New York, Puerto Rico, California. So I am hoping to just have community centers across the nation. So yeah.
Right. Worldwide, y'all. Worldwide.
Yes, yes, I would love that. So yeah,
right,
that's
right.
how I think.
Yeah, it's going to be good for the traveling too, So it's like, hey, hit every point. Right,
yes,
right.
I love that so much.
Yeah, look, right. So hey, you guys, cross seas, hey, y'all heard what she's trying to do. If y'all willing to network and y'all collaborate some kind of way, hit her up. She said she's coming. She's coming, okay? She's coming.
On the way.
On the way, right. I really do appreciate it. You guys, please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Ding! So every time another video is uploaded, you guys will be the first one to get it. And we're out. Peace.
Yes.